Ice caps receive very little precipitation and are similar to frozen deserts. McMurdo Station is a research base in an area of Antarctica claimed by New Zealand. It is the largest base in the area, and temperature and precipitation readings show the cold temperatures and infrequent precipitation. Ice caps typically occur at latitudes north of 70 degrees north and south of 70 degrees south. The polar ice caps can seem devoid of life at first, but in reality they are often teeming with life that can survive the harsh conditions. Phytoplankton and algae are the main primary producers that provide the energy that supplies the rest of the organisms in this biome. Polar bears are at the top of the food web and primarily eat seals. Polar bears are adapted to the extreme environment because they have a thick layer of fat under their skin, which allows them to live and hunt in cold water and air. Ring seals have sharp claws that they use to create breathing holes in the thick layers of ice near their feeding areas. Arctic foxes have a layer of fur on their paws, which provides them with insulation and allows them to walk on slippery ice.
A symbiotic relationship is a relationship between species that can either be harmful or beneficial, but create a balance in the ecosystem. There are 4 types of symbiotic relationships, including commensalism, mutualism, parasitism, and competition. An example of a symbiotic relationship, specifically commensalism, is an Arctic fox following a polar bear and feeding on the scraps of prey the polar bear leaves behind. Competition is when 2 organisms interact because they require the same resource. This interaction is negative for the organisms involved because they have to keep pace with one another if they wish to obtain the resource needed. An example of competition in the polar biomes is between ringed seals and bearded seals. Ringed seals and bearded seals compete for the same food source. They compete for squid and polar cod.
Coevolution is when an organism's genetic composition changes in response to a different organism's changing genetic composition. Ring seals will often build dens underneath ice to avoid polar bears. As a result of this behavior, polar bears have evolved to develop strong paws with pads which enable them to dig through ice to catch their prey. Also, due to the habitat of ring seals in ice patches in the middle of the sea, polar bears have adapted to this situation by becoming strong swimmers through natural selection. Polar bears are a species with a specialized niche. They cannot survive in areas without polar sea ice. They use the ice to hunt, and their hair color only functions as camouflage in areas that are icy or snowy.
An organism with a generalized niche is an organism that can exist in a broad range of conditions. Croutose lichens are able to survive in many habitats. This is due to their ability to exhibit net photosynthesis even when they are frozen at temperatures as low as -20 degrees Celsius. Lichens can absorb water from a saturated atmosphere when they are covered by snow. Additionally, snow cover affords protection from the elements, and most growth appears to occur when they are buried beneath at least a thin protective layer of snow. They are also able to survive lengthy, unfavorable periods of drought. Many lichens are able to absorb water vapor from snow and ice. Croutose lichens are found in the polar ice cap biome. They are also found in parts of North America, making them an organism with a generalized niche. The polar biome is useful to humans in many ways. First, the ice cap is much lighter in color than the open ocean, which means that it reflects more sunlight than open ocean. This cools the earth because the energy is reflected rather than being absorbed. Cooling is essential for the survival of ecosystems such as coral reefs. Due to this, coral reefs don't die, so fish populations can remain stable and we can enjoy eating things such as fish. Cooling can also prevent natural disasters that can occur with global warming and reduces heat-related illness. The polar biome is also helpful to humans in a more direct way. There are various groups of indigenous people that live on the polar sea ice. These people need the ice to survive. Many groups, such as the Inuit, use the ice to hunt seals and other marine mammals, which they use to survive.
Global warming can be attributed to human activities that result in the increased production of greenhouse gases. The gases trap heat that would normally not be held close to Earth. This has resulted in warmer temperatures and a decline in polar sea ice. The receding polar sea ice has been detrimental to many species, such as polar bears, and has prevented them from reaching their feeding grounds and reproducing. The polar biomes are similar to the Arctic tundra in terms of limited annual precipitation. Both may also receive 24 consecutive hours of sunlight every day for months, or 24 consecutive hours of darkness or limited sunlight based on the season and the position of the sun. The biomes are also similar in that they share some species, such as the Arctic fox. The landscape of the poles is more heavily composed of icy glaciers than the tundra. There is very little land vegetation and no grassland, shrubs, or trees on the polar ice cap. The tundra can support many larger herbivores, including reindeer and muskox, but the polar ice caps have limited plant life, and as a result, these species cannot be found there.